If you spend any time at all looking into the world of futures thinking or strategic foresight, you will absolutely come across the term VUCA, which is pronounced different ways by different people. Today, we can have a quick look at what it is and why, if at all, you should be interested. So, it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So, rapid and unpredictable nature of change, unpredictability of events, interconnectedness of multiple issues and factors, and a lack of clarity and the potential for misunderstanding. It got its origin from the US Army War College in 1987 when they were discussing the world after the end of the Cold War. And its primary use is to be as a framework and a way of looking at the world on how to respond to challenging and unpredictable environments. And more recently, it's been heavily used in the world of business and leadership. It's used to analyze situations, risks, and develop strategies for navigating challenging environments. Now, if we think of challenging environments in recent history, then there's the AI revolution, which we are in the middle of, or maybe just at the start of right now. There is blockchain, cryptocurrencies, the events in Eastern Europe, the financial crisis, and other worldwide events that no one really predicted with any great degree of certainty or detail. So if that sounds a little bit too vague, then we can look at it in terms of themes. So understanding information, being prepared, using resources wisely, adapting to change, bouncing back and planning ahead, system weaknesses and human errors. These are 7 themes that you can use to have a look at a business or some other entity that needs you to plan for a volatile and uncertain future. Organizational impact for a business would be, for example, how long will our current business model remain effective? What technologies should that business embrace to stay competitive? How can that business distinguish itself from global rivals in countries with lower cost manufacturing, for example? And what skill sets and job profiles are requisite for our value proposition? Why, in other words, should a potential customer choose us over anyone else? Now, VUCA sounds good, and it certainly makes sense in terms of we look at recent events, and yes, the world has definitely been volatile and unpredictable, and there has been a high degree of ambiguity, but hasn't it always been that way? Are we skewed by a more modern focused view of the world? If we go back a couple of hundred years or so, then the modern petrochemical industry that began in earnest in 1859 when Edwin Drake drilled the first successful oil well. So no longer potentially would sailors and businessmen risk their lives, vast amounts of money, ships, resources, hunting whales just for their oil. The petrochemical revolution meant that oil for lamps and heating and so on could be generated from oil from the ground, not a tumultuous sea in the middle of nowhere. So this industry, this whale oil industry that had been so strong, within about 20 years of the first oil well being drilled, had become a shadow of its former self. The number of whaling vessels had gone from 278 in 1852, and within 15 years or so, it had gone down to 8. More recently, we can look at Blockbuster Video versus Netflix, which I'm sure everyone has read about, heard about. And then there's Kodak, traditional film processing and cameras versus the rise of the digital camera era. So if someone has a company or an organization of some sort, what can they do? What can VUCA be used for in terms of useful, applicable uses? This is a diagram I found from a research paper which I will link below. I like it. It summarizes it in a fairly straightforward way. You identify your VUCA, identify the volatility in the world around you. It might not be the entire world, it might be your portion of the world, your sector, your industries, and so on. And this paper's primary view is that agility is the secret to surviving in an unpredictable world. So the two boxes at the bottom focus on finding out what are your obstacles to being agile as a team, as a leader, as an organization, and what can you do, what can you implement to enhance your agility. Few suggestions down the bottom, obviously agile and flexible, like we said. Watch for incoming trends. So this is where your horizon scanning, other futures thinking techniques would come in really handy. Adapt to customer needs, and prior to that, actually find out what your customer needs are. Don't be assuming. Leadership and role modeling, knowledge sharing, and to keep VUCA in the front of your mind. And there's the link for the research paper there as well. Mitigation strategies. So if we hear about the risks of working and earning money in a VUCA world, what can you do to mitigate the hazards? Develop a VUCA mindset, use scenario analysis like we just mentioned. Futures thinking tools can come in very handy, scenario planning and so on. Encouraging cross-functional collaboration. Yes, very business buzzwordy, but it is true. You want to avoid silos of thinking, avoid getting stuck in a business as usual manner of thinking where day after day the same things are done in the same way and no one's looking at the horizon to see the big economic trend, technological trend, societal shift or so on that may drastically impact the world that you do business in. Really nice quote here as well that I think summarizes the whole way of applying VUCA thinking. Is the key to success in a VUCA world is a combination of adaptability, continuous learning, agility, and the ability to anticipate and respond to change.